You ever get the feeling that some of the best pistols just never get talked about? It's always Glock this and Sig that, and yeah, those guns are great, but today, we're cracking open the side of the 9mm world most folks ignore. These aren't your YouTube darlings or gun store poster boys. These are the ones that quietly outperform, outlast, and outshoot without ever trending. Some of them are budget beasts. Some just weird enough to work, but every one of them has a story that deserves your attention, especially in 2025 when the same recycled advice won't cut it anymore. So if you've been chasing something different, something that actually stands out at the range or keeps you safe without the hype, don't look away, because I promise by the end of this list, you'll be saying, why the hell isn't everyone talking about this? There's an old saying that legends never die, they just get overlooked. And that's exactly the case with the Browning High Power, now reborn as the Girsan MCP35. For decades, this pistol carried soldiers, officers, and freedom fighters through some of the most turbulent chapters of the 20th century. Yet today, many shooters pass it by for polymer-framed newcomers, and that's a mistake. The story begins with John Browning himself, the genius behind so many iconic firearms. The High Power was one of his final masterpieces, a design perfected by Dieudonné Seff after Browning's passing. It was sleek, accurate, and revolutionary, packing a double-stack magazine at a time when most pistols held half as many rounds. For years, it set the standard for military sidearms across the globe. But as newcomers arrived with accessory rails, striker-fired triggers, and polymer frames, the High Power quietly faded into the background. Collectors cherished it, but most younger shooters never gave it a second glance. That's where Girsan stepped in. The MCP35 isn't just a tribute, it's a resurrection. It keeps the classic steel frame heft, crisp single-action trigger, and that unmistakable grip angle, but brings it back to the modern market at a price point that's surprisingly accessible. Here's the conflict. Many dismiss the Girsan MCP35 as just a clone, but those who actually spend time with it realize it's far more than that. It's an entry ticket into owning one of the most historically significant pistol designs ever created without the collector's price tag. If you're only chasing the newest polymer pistols, you'll miss out. The Browning High Power, reborn as the Girsan MCP35, proves that sometimes the greatest treasures aren't the latest releases, they're the ones history nearly allowed us to forget. This one, woof, my god, surprised the hell out of me. The FN 509 Compact was a gun I wanted to ignore. FN makes military workhorses, not everyday carry kings. The full-size 509 was already heavy and blocky, so when they shrank it down, I figured it would just be a clunky Me Too option against the Glocks and Sigs everyone loved. Honestly, I didn't think it stood a chance, and for a while, I was right. Nobody lined up to buy it, nobody bragged about it. At the counter, it sat next to guns with better marketing and shinier reputations. It felt like FN made a compact just because they had to, not because they wanted to. Then I shot one, and I'll be real with you, it changed the way I thought about it. The recoil was flatter than I expected. The trigger, not perfect, but crisp enough to be honest. The slide felt like it was on rails, and the ambient controls made it easier to run than half the trendier compacts out there. It had that FN toughness baked right in, the kind that comes from surviving military trials most pistols never see. It's not pretty, it's not light, it doesn't photograph well on Instagram, but when you run it, something clicks. This isn't a cheap Glock clone or a flavor of the month carry gun. It's a pistol that shows up, works dirty, works wet, and just keeps working. My buddy, a cop in Houston, carries one off duty. Says it's the only compact he's trusted after seeing what his full-sized 509 went through in training. The effing 509 compact may not be popular and it's not even hyped, but it's real, and sometimes that's just better. I never planned on owning a Ruger Security 9. Honestly, I walked into the shop looking for something else entirely. My guy behind the counter slid it across like it was an afterthought. Cheap, plain, no frills. I almost pushed it back, but the price tag made me pause. Half the cost of what I was planning to spend, and it sat in my hand like it already belonged there. First range trip, I didn't expect much. Plastic frame, budget vibe, trigger that looked like it wanted to quit before it started. I loaded up, lined up, and braced myself for disappointment, but the first 3 rounds landed tighter than I had any right to expect. I thought it was just luck until 5 more confirmed it wasn't. The gun was boringly accurate. Then came the jam, mid-mag, dead stop. My instinct screamed, here we go. But I cleared it, ran the slide, and it didn't happen again. That one hiccup left me watching it like a hawk. I pushed it harder. Rapid fire, weak hand, dirty ammo. It just kept chewing. The Security 9 isn't refined, but it's stubborn. What hit me was this. The gun didn't care about impressing anyone. It didn't look special, didn't carry prestige, but it shot straight, held steady, and refused to tap out. It's the kind of pistol you forget about until you need it, and then you remember why you kept it. By the end of that session, I wasn't thinking about the price anymore. I wasn't thinking about the brands that get all the hype. I was thinking that the Ruger Security 9, in its plain, no-nonsense way, had just earned a permanent place in the rotation. Sometimes the gun you almost overlook ends up being the one you actually trust the most. The first time I touched a Steyr, I thought it was a mistake. The grip angle looked like it came from a drafting table and not a pistol. Too steep, too futuristic, like something out of a sci-fi prop room. I almost left, but then I pressed out and the front sight snapped into focus without me fighting it. My hands just locked in. No shifting, no rolling, no pressure points. I ran the first magazine slow, waiting for the catch, waiting for the quirk that explains why people don't talk about this gun more, but every trigger pull was clean. The break was short and sharp, like the gun wanted me to keep shooting faster. The reset pushed my finger forward before I was ready. By the second mag, I wasn't thinking anymore. I was chasing splits, chasing rhythm. The slide felt lighter than it looked. The recoil wasn't Glock flat, but it was smoother, less mechanical. The trapezoid sights, everyone complains about them until they try them. My eyes didn't ask permission, they just locked in like they'd been waiting their whole life for that geometry. By the time I realized how fast I was running through ammo, it hit me. This gun had no business being this good while being this invisible. Everyone wants to argue Glock versus SIG, but nobody whispers about the Steyr. Maybe it's because it doesn't belong in any camp. It's not a duty gun, not a competition gun, not a collectible. It's a shooter's gun, that's all. And that's the conflict. It's a pistol too good to ignore, but too weird to be mainstream. You either get it or you miss it forever. You ever handle a gun you wanted to dismiss right away? That was the TP9 Elite SC. Compact 9mm, subcompact frame, imported. I already had my speech ready. Cheap clone, overhyped budget gun. But then I wrecked the slide. Crisp, clean, almost smug about it. The trigger didn't belong to something at this price. Flat, short reset, begging to be pulled again. And suddenly, I was standing there realizing this wasn't supposed to feel this solid. 12 plus 1 in a flash mag, 15 with an extension, that's real carry power in a frame this small. Optics ready cut straight from the box, not aftermarket, not a half-baked attempt, a real option. Even the grip texture, sharp enough to hold, soft enough not to shred you on the draw. I wanted to laugh it off, call it a poor man's Glock, but I couldn't, because the truth is, Canik didn't just build another striker-fired compact, they built a pistol that makes you second-guess the stuff you thought you already knew. I don't want to admit it, but if this thing keeps running clean, keeps punching like it did when I first picked it up, people are going to start whispering about Canik in the same breath as the big dogs. And that was never supposed to happen. They don't make them like this anymore. The Smith & Wesson 3913 is the kind of pistol that slips through history unnoticed, overshadowed by the polymer revolution. Yet for those who carried it when things got ugly, this little 9mm single stack was more than just steel and aluminum, it was survival. The early 1990s, a time when law enforcement was just beginning to transition from revolvers. Glock was stealing the spotlight, but the 3913 was the quiet workhorse riding in the holsters of detectives, plainclothes officers, and anyone who needed a slim, reliable sidearm without screaming cop gun. It was light, thin, and had that old-school double-action, single-action trigger that demanded respect. No shortcuts, no excuses. Here's the conflict though. The gun world forgot about it. Polymer frames pushed it into the shadows and the newer generation dismissed it as outdated. But those who actually carried one knew differently. The 3913 had souls. It pointed naturally, shot flat, and concealed like a secret you could trust your life with. The criminals of that era didn't care what brand name was etched on the slide. They only cared if the man across from them flinched first. And the 3913 was built for people who didn't flinch. Compact enough for daily carry, accurate enough to matter, and tough enough to take the abuse of real-world use. Today, it's criminally underrated, not because it failed, but because it never got the glory. The 3913 isn't flashy, it's not tactical, it's not the star of Instagram gun pages. This is the kind of pistol you find in an old leather holster carried by someone who's seen things and survived them. The alley was quiet until it wasn't. Two men squared off, one clutching a polished name-brand pistol he swore would never fail him. The other, he carried something most folks hadn't even heard of, the Arex Delta Gen 2. No flashy reputation, no Hollywood fame. Just a clean, sharp-edged tool built to do one thing, survive. The fight wasn't fair. The brand-name pistol jammed on the third round, leaving its owner staring at cold steel and wasted pride. The man with the Arex, his polymer-framed ghost of a gun, spat fire with surgical precision, every round feeding smooth until it was hungry for combat. That's when the secret was out. Reliability doesn't wear a famous badge. The Gen 2 was born in Slovenia, far from the American spotlight, yet it was built with an eye for modern combat. It weighs almost nothing, hides under a shirt like a rumor, and still delivers the kind of recoil control that makes double taps feel unfair. Add in ambidextrous controls, optics-ready slides, and a grip texture that clings to your hand like it knows the stakes, and suddenly you realize this isn't some budget throwaway. The lesson that night was brutal. The world doesn't care about brand loyalty when lives are measured in split seconds. The Arex Delta Gen 2 may never headline a movie, but in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing, it becomes a whisper of danger. Underrated? Only until you see it and the fight. When the Walther P99 first hit the market in the late 90s, it was supposed to be the future. A striker-fired pistol with cutting-edge ergonomics, ambidextrous controls, and a trigger system unlike anything else. People swore it would dominate law enforcement holsters worldwide, and for a brief moment, it actually did. Police forces in Europe adopted it, James Bond even carried it on screen, and shooters whispered about its German precision. But somehow, over the years, the P99 became a shadow of its own promise, overshadowed by Glock, forgotten by newcomers, and quietly phased out while other pistols hog the spotlight. The P99 is still one of the smartest 9mm pistols you'll ever pick up. Its anti-stress trigger system gives you the versatility of double action and single action without compromise. The ergonomics were ahead of their time. Interchangeable backstraps, smooth contours, and controls designed for either hand. The slide is slim, the recoil is surprisingly soft, and the reliability, pure Walther. Drop it in the mud, leave it in the rain, it just keeps firing. Why is it underrated, you ask? Because the market forgot about it. Because Glock's marketing budget screamed louder. Because newer models like the PPQ and PDP stole its thunder. But ask anyone who carried one in his service and they'll tell you. The Walther P99 is a gun that never let them down. In a world where pistols live and die by trends, the P99 stands as proof that innovation doesn't always get the recognition it deserves. It may not be the flavor of the month, but for those who know, this pistol isn't just underrated, it's a legend hiding in plain sight. They didn't believe him when he said the Storm had saved his life, but then again, nobody ever listens until the smoke clears and the brass is still warm on the ground. It was late. An underground garage, dim lights flickering, footsteps echoing louder than his pulse. He wasn't supposed to be there. Not alone, not with a briefcase that heavy. But danger has a way of finding you even when you try to keep your head down. When the shadows split and three figures stepped forward, his hand tightened around the PX4 compact. Not a Glock, not a SIG, just the Beretta nobody talks about. The one the internet critics call too bulky, too strange, too different. They never understood. The trigger broke clean, the recoil softened by its rotating barrel system, a feature most shooters overlook until they feel it for themselves. Round after round stayed on target, tighter than you'd think for something this compact. The polymer frame, light in his grip, gave him speed when he needed it most. The men scattered, the echoes of the shot hanging in the garage like smoke. His heartbeat slowed, the Storm still warm in his hand. Underrated? Maybe. But underrated only matters until it's you in the fight wishing you had chosen better. He holstered it, eyes scanning the silence. The PX4 Storm compact had done its job like it always does. Quiet, efficient, reliable. The critics can keep their complaints. The survivors know the truth. Sometimes the pistol they laugh at is the very one that saves you. Because in that garage, at that moment, there was no debate. The Storm wasn't just a gun, it was the reason he walked out alive. They laughed at it. They said it was just another polymer-framed pistol trying to swim in Glock's ocean, but when the smoke cleared, the CZ-P07 didn't just hold its ground, it demanded respect. This isn't the flashy gun you'll see all over YouTube thumbnails. It doesn't scream for attention. Instead, it sits quietly, underestimated, like the fighter who doesn't shadowbox in the locker room, he just knocks people out when the bell rings. The P07 comes with a deconker safety system that lets you run it however you want. Conked and locked like a 1911? Done. Traditional DASA? Easy. It gives you control, not the other way around. And let's talk about that trigger. Smooth on the pull, crisp on the brake, and the reset is short enough to make follow-up shots feel almost telepathic. But here's the conflict. People ignore it. The Glock crowd calls it too different. The SIG fans say it doesn't have the pedigree, and yet every shooter who dares to step outside the echo chamber walks away with the same stunned reaction. How did I not know about this before? It eats every kind of ammo you throw at it. It runs dirty, wet, and dry. Law enforcement in Europe trusted it for a reason, because in the moments that matter, it doesn't flinch. So yep, the CZ-P07 might not win the popularity contest, but if you're looking for an underrated 9mm that won't leave you stranded, this is the gun hiding in plain sight. Criminally underrated? Nope. It's practically a felony how overlooked this pistol is. Every list deserves a wild card, and the CZ-P10S fits that bill perfectly. It's the subcompact version of the CZ-P10C, trimmed down for concealed carry, but still carrying that same crisp trigger and rock-solid ergonomics that shooters swear by. The first thing you'll notice is how well it melts into your hand. The grip texture is aggressive without being abrasive, giving you confidence in rapid fire or under sweaty conditions. At just over 3 inches of barrel length, it's small enough to disappear under a t-shirt, but unlike many subcompacts, it doesn't punish you with snappy recoil. The low bore axis and CZ stellar engineering keep it flat, fast, and controllable. Capacity isn't sacrificed either. With 12 rounds in the mag and extensions available, it offers more firepower than most pistols its size. Add in the ambi controls and a slight cut ready for optics, and the P10S becomes the kind of carry gun that feels like it should be talked about way more often than it is. If you want something that's easy to carry all day but shoots like a bigger gun, the CZ P10S is the bonus pick you didn't know you really needed. See, not every great pistol needs a marketing machine behind it. Sometimes the real winners are the quiet ones, the ones folks walk past at the counter until someone shows them what they're missing out on. Even if one of these guns made you pause, rewind, or rethink what you carry, mission accomplished. Don't let the crowd pick your next 9mm. Do your own digging, try the ones nobody's talking about, because sometimes the guns they overlook are the ones that save lives. I'm Steve, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.